creating another entity with an angelic or a heavenly entity. Okay, that was the big, and that's what happened in the Garden of Eden. This is one of the major problems. There's huge, and this creates huge wickedness, and this creates huge problems for everybody. Okay, this is a lot of the story, is damage control. One of the main things, and then it's like getting a virus in the computer program. It just creates all sorts of havoc, and it's unfixable because you don't know. I mean, you're not God. How do you know how to fix, something like that, something so huge? And so this is why God, a lot of times he doesn't fix it. He just gets rid of it. It's like, let's clean the slate and start over. This thing got out of control. But, all right, let's go to some Bible verses, okay? Because what I'm trying to say is, I don't care if you call them gods. I mean, I don't really care how you wrap your mind around it, because I know that there's physics to God, but this is going to be so shocking, because let's just take it at face value. The mythology, I know it's very confusing and mixed up a little bit, and I do believe it's going to be straightened out a lot, but like Greek mythology, a lot of these people were not crazy. They were describing the world that is really real, that they were interfacing with, that calmed down a lot. And this is the story, this is the whole point of Abraham, and why after the Tower of Babel, and God just really said, okay, that's it. I'm going to confound the languages of these people. They're just not going to be able to gang up, combine forces like this, so to speak, and gang up again in wickedness. All right. But Abraham, this is why he's called the father, because the three major religions, the Christians, the Jews, and Islamics, all consider him to be the progenitor or the father of their peoples. Okay, in the sense, now I'm not going, we got Adam, we got Noah in the storyline, you can't just, but Adam is truly an Adamic man who was given great authority by God to go back out, to repopulate. God was going to make him a great king and a king of kings, and was going to make many nations, not one nation coming from his loins, but many. He went out into all, his offspring was going to be as numerous as the stars of the sky, and the sands of the sea was going to be, and this has been the salt of the earth. This has been the preservative of the human Adamic race to keep a level playing field, basically, and it's getting really a little bit crazy now because Satan is ratcheting up again, coming out of his woodwork, so to speak, in your face, people, today, and we need to prepare now for what's coming, because hiding your head in the sand, it's just not going to do it. It's just not. I know who I am. I know I'm a son of God with all authority. I mean, in a way, there's a part of me, when I'm comfortable, and I say, bring it on. Bring it on. David had to fight a giant, whatever. Bring it on. Now, I am sure that I'll be quite, I'm not that arrogant, but I do have a faith in my God. He's got it figured out. I can be hidden in God in Christ. Okay, so the tribulation trips people up because they don't want to go through it. Well, of course, who would? But the point is, we will, and we will come out the other side, saint. Okay, God's got a lot of stuff that is deeply encrypted. Most of the church focuses on what Satan's going to do. They're clueless that God really has uncontrolled, and we are going to win and win big. And this thing is going to, okay, enough of that. But let me just read you, this is out of the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13 and verse 1, about the other gods. We're going to get back to this thing because I got to prove my point that I don't care what you call these entities from other dimensions. Adam is a god, was a god in the sense he was made in the image of God, so a son of God, right? What do we call him? He is definitely a son of God, which makes us sons of God. But there's a lot of disclaimers that I have to say. Wisdom of Solomon 13:1. Surely vain are all men by nature who are ignorant of God and could not out of the good things that are seen know him that is. This is what Paul says. He says they're all going to be without excuse because of the creation, because just look at it. obviously a very intelligent being made it. It just didn't poof out of chaos. Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the workmaster. In other words, there's got to be a watchmaker for the watch. But deemed either fire, now listen to me, deemed either fire, wind, air, the circle of the stars, or the violent water, or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world. Okay, now this is the thing. The angels, there's dimensions. You have fire God, and this is the kids today. Kids, I'm telling you, you are playing with fire. Satan is reintroducing these, and they're going to get control over you because this is what they do if you are in the dark side, if you are into dark magic, if you are manipulating forces that are way beyond you. It's a game initially, and then it is an absolute ownership and bondage. Make no mistake. But deemed either fire or wind, so you have air or fire, the swift air, which is breath, because breath and air, there's spirit and then there's breath. God breathed the breath of God into Adam. The circle of the stars, in other words, or the stars, which is the heavenly beings, those seas, the violent water is the seas, the lights of heaven, which is another, the luminaries, to be the gods which govern the world. So in other words, this is saying exactly what I was saying, that in the dimensions are extremely powerful and primordial and offsprings of quote unquote lesser gods or entities from the earth, the heavens that are in the sea and under the earth. Now there are the highest dimensions, the high heavens, and the abyss has many, the sea, which has many levels to it, and there's many levels to this thing. But, so we have here again, that deemed either fire, wind, the air, the stars, the seas, or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world. Because see, these things, okay, with whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods. Let them know how much better the Lord of them is, for the first author of beauty hath created them. But if they were astonished at their power and virtue, these gods, these entities, these deities, let them understand by them how much mightier is he, the God of gods, that made them. For the greatness and beauty of the creatures proportionally is seen by the maker of them. So in other words, and they exhibit God's glory. You see, not everything is fallen. This is, I guess, the point. So you can't go into this thing, you just go into this thing with knowledge. The Hebrews knew this. They didn't necessarily go out. That's why Saul was very much, condemned for trying to dig up the witch of Endor. What he did is he brought back the soul of Samuel the prophet. He went into the dimension where Saul was and had him, or where Samuel was, and had him brought back because Saul wanted some information. He was a little scared. He knew he kind of ticked off Elohim, and he needed, Samuel was very upset with him and said, so this is not a good thing, what you're doing. Okay, but you have to understand, these stories are real. This stuff is real. And I'm just so done with an intellectual gospel that has no power because they have no clue what they're dealing with. All right, I got to get into a couple more points. I know I'm going to run out of time, but I just had to say some of this stuff. Okay, for yet by this they are less to be blamed, for they err, seeking God, and are desirous to find him, but they just sort of stop short. They're bedazzled. And this is the whole story of the gods. And they strut around in their beauty and their power and their otherworldliness and their abilities and all this stuff. And especially you got into the fallen ones, and most people just stop there. It's like bedazzled. Okay. Now, let me go into this whole concept, of El, which is the word used for God, and it's used 24 times as God, okay? And it's really used for Yahweh Elohim, the Most High God, okay? but where it is referred to a couple times in small g as God's plural. Because you have to understand, this is a legitimate word that was used by our prophets and early Bible expositors to tell us things. So in Job 41:25, this is a trick. Well, let me shouldn't even start. In Psalm 29:1, it says, "Ascribe to the Lord, you heavenly beings." These are different translations. "You sons of the mighty." Now, let me tell you something. If you look that up in the Hebrew, because see, these translations, I don't know if they're well, they are at this point a little bit deliberately misleading, because Satan has now gotten hoodwinked all the. In my opinion, he's too infiltrated, so the real truth is not getting out there in the translations. It's getting watered down. Heavenly beings, sons of the mighty. This is the word El. These are El. These are gods. These are heavenly beings. I told you, angels are stars, are celestial flesh, are real beings with real jobs and real powers, and they do real things. Okay? And, a lot of times I have angels, they have saved my sorry butt a couple of times. I mean, I have real stories where it had to be. There's just no way. And a lot of people, but the point is, the ancients understood this. They knew that this dimension, these entities, and they interfaced with them. When Mary, the angel came to talk to Mary, she didn't freak out and flip out. She was just like, oh my gosh, be it done unto me. I mean, you understand, they were much more comfortable with this. Satan has tried, in the modern mind, just wants to totally ignore all this. Except the youth today, who want to think it's all fantasy, and then they keep getting closer and closer to the fire, and pretty soon it's too late. The trap's been laid, and boom. God can just call upon the blood of Jesus. Just try using the blood of Jesus, any entity that's dogging you. Now, there's in Psalm 89:6, it says, "For who in the skies can be compared to Yahweh?" This is the word when it's used, Yahweh, which is Yahweh, Vavhe, which is the name of God, the Most High God, what we're talking about, among the sons of the mighty, or the word again is El in the plural, Elim. It's E-L-I-M. El is the word for God. L-E-L, and you add the I-M, which is the plural. So we are talking about the sons of the mighty, or the sons of gods. And other translations use heavenly beings, divine beings, or heavenly beings. These are gods. These are souls. I gotta tell you this, I don't know about stars are souls. And we're gonna shine like stars in the sky. We will ultimately, those who kind of make the grade, make the cut, Daniel says, the wise, we will shine. And even now, our soul life, if you are full of light, because see, these other dimensions don't really see you as, they do see you as a flesh and blood walking around, but they can see your soul life. This is what's pretty freaky. And if you're shining like lights, believe me, they can't even get at the light, okay? So the best news is to be completely pure, full of the Spirit of God, shining brightly, and you know what? You're pretty good. You're okay. But there's so much imagery. It's imagery and it's parabolic, but on a level, it's absolutely accurate and true. Okay, Daniel, or when you get into, so let me just get back to this. So that okay, let me just say this, because this trips up a lot of people. It took me a long time to figure this out. I'll tell you a little secret. Until Abraham, the offspring of Adam, the righteous seed line, were called Adamites. This was sort of, and then you get into a lot of the understandings before the sixth day, or the pre-Adamites, because they are finding, and there's evidence in this, there are pre-Adamic races, and then there's this Adamic race. So, but they were known before Abraham, and then before Israel, before they were known as Israelites. So this is something that we've kind of lost this understanding, so it's been kind of difficult. Who are these Adamites? But they're talking about the same kind of thing. The righteous remnant, the righteous bloodline, the righteous seed line, even though it's contaminated a little bit, whatever, those are Adamites. So from Adam all through the patriarchs and Enoch and Shem and all this, and their offspring and all of these, the righteous bloodline, up until Abraham, and then God calls out. Abraham has Isaac, and Isaac has Jacob, and you have the 12 tribes, and this whole night history begins the next 2,000 years, which is known as the age of, they call it the age of Torah, which is really where Israel now has become a nation, and God's doing a little bit of a different thing with them and everything, okay? Very different when they were Adamites, okay? Now, but there's the same people group. This is the same, and believe me, this bloodline is in all the races. It's in every tongue. It's in every tribe on the planet, okay? Because another thing we've lost is how unbelievably, well, first of all, non-localized these were. These people were all over the earth, okay? This is why we find in the Inca ruins and the Mayans, you find it in Mexico City, and you find it up north in Scandinavia, you find it in America, and you find it, tons of it over in the Mideast, and you find it over in India. These people are megalithic builders and megalithic people groups, and they're all over the earth, okay? So this is another piece of the puzzle that you have to understand. Satan has really tried to keep us so localized in between these two little rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates, and you want to think that all the action is happening in here and all this, and that nothing could be further from the truth. See, he's always trying to put you in a box so he can completely control all the information flow into that box. Okay, so now, and I wanted to say, in case that you think that I'm being a little over the top, trying to talk about angels and entities and living creatures, our fathers in the faith, since like the Christian faith, we have quote unquote fathers in the faith. The real fathers in the faith for us are Abraham and Isaac, but we have you could say that the apostles are fathers in the faith for us, and Clement and Barnabas, and you get into down the line. But there's three people here that wrote early works that are kept in the Vatican, and that if you really got deep into this stuff, you would read their stuff. That will never teach it to the common person, whatever. But there's one guy, Dionysius the Areopagite. Okay, again, Gregory the Great, you might have heard of some of these. And then there's a whole work called the Apostolic Constitutions, which is absolutely, I highly recommend, especially if you're a pastor or you're into church work, church planting, church organization, church hierarchy, any of this kind of stuff. You should read the Ethiopian Bible and their apostolic constitutions. They have kept the best record of how the early church was set up and operated, and then cross-reference it with some of the Vatican, some of the texts that come from the Latin West, okay? But these all talk about, in depth, just what I'm talking about, the angelic hierarchies. Now, you have the seraphim, the cherubim, and the thrones. And they gave them different names. And the other thing is, oh my gosh, everybody's got to give it a new name. Every culture, every age. This is why it gets so confusing. I swear. I can't wait till the Lord comes back and he simplifies it. But this is under Dionysius. He calls them the top three spiritual levels. And these are the divine minds. This is the exalted minds. These are the waters above. I did something on this. This is the mind of prayer. This is the three Sephiroth that are just totally out of reach to us, basically, in the sense they're not part of the four dimensions I'm talking about. These are the four rivers. This is just, anyways, the seraphim, the cherubim, and the thrones. One called the understandings, the ascensions, and the lights. One of them calls them the seraphim, the cherubim, and the aeons. Okay, but basically we're talking about the same things. Then you get, because our Bible talks about this stuff, you have to get very specific. Michael, the archangel of Israel, I totally unpacked that for you. And many people, there's a strain of Hebraic exegesis, and I think it's true that's an incarnation of Yashua. I mean, when he wants to be an angel, let me put it this way, because he can be anything. He came down to be a man. Okay, that's what he did for us, because we're Adamites, so he had to come and be a man, die on the cross and save us in our state before we could get anywhere, we get out of here. But when he wants to be an angel, he's Michael. And I believe that, okay? Whatever. Anyways, then you have under that in the 4 that time you have authorities and lordships and powers. You have dominions, principalities and powers. You have hosts of powers, authorities and principalities. This is another breakdown where in some of the words flip-flop, but you've heard that. Principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, okay? And then keep coming down because there's a hierarchy, and as you come down, you get denser and denser, so to speak, but you also get less and less abilities. But let me tell you, you still got more than we do. We can't even get out of gravity. We can't, okay? I mean, you can jump, but you ain't going to jump very high. You can fly, but you are not going to fly very far before you hit back down, okay? You got principalities, archangels, and angels down here. You got virtues, archangels, and angels, thrones, archangels. Now, they were kind of all over but this was taught and understood before they threw the book of Enoch out, which was, I think, around 300. By the time of 300, when they codified, Satan was able to infiltrate the church, put it back in a box. He put the genie back in the box, so to speak. A lot of this knowledge went away, okay? There's always been a select few who have had a lot more esoteric understanding, but basically, this is the age where everything's coming back out, and we're getting back to this. So this is very important to understand. Let me tell you what, I'm not praying to angels. I'm not worshiping angels. I'm just acknowledging they're part of the storyline. When an angel came, every time and John would fall down on his face. I mean, what these things are, he'd say, and the angel would say, look, dude, basically, don't worship me and don't get freaked out. I'm just a servant like you of Yahweh Elohim. That's basically, so just get back up and let's get on with the business at hand. I mean, basically, that's what's going on, okay? Because I'm telling you what, we're going to start interfacing. I mean, I don't know how to say it. And if you don't know, I mean, Satan has so many guises, it's going to be, because I've had visions, a lot of people have. I mean, I have seen things in the spirit world. I mean, part of me is so have done this because, I have had some real things that, I can't explain away in the natural. There's just no way. So I know that there's levels to this thing. But anyways, let's get back to some of the word here. I was going to get back to L, number 410. And this is, so what they don't understand, a lot of times when you're studying these seculars, especially these secular researchers who don't really buy into the storyline anyways, they're constantly trying to find contradictions and ways they think they can disprove it. They don't understand, again, the whole concept of this whole thing. And so the Adamites being the storyline of this people group up until Abraham, because Abraham was from Ur. He was a Babylonian, okay? I mean, he was not in Israel. They weren't existing. It's like saying that you can't call Jacob a Christian. That whole thing wasn't there, yet he was a believer in Yahweh. He's a saved saint. We're going to meet him, okay? The Ugaritic literature depicts El as the sovereign deity of the Canaanite pantheon. See, they don't understand. The knowledge was general to everybody, okay? It wasn't so... They all knew what was going on. They knew what had happened. They knew the Canaanites, the two sides sort of interfaced and knew each other and what was going on. And if you don't understand this, because the wheat and the tares are always, the Bible says, they're planted into the same field. You've always got wheat and tares together in every situation that you're looking at, okay? Anyways, let me end with this. The Ugaritic literature depicts El as the sovereign deity of the Canaanite pantheon, Adamites. He is frequently referred to as the father of the gods, the eternal king, the creator of all living beings. El's other epithets include El the kind, the compassionate. He is the bull. He is in Hebrew, the Hebrew letter, I was telling you, he's the elf. He is God. He is the ox head. He is the strong one. He is the ageless one. He is the father of years. He's the ancient of days. He is depicted as a bearded and residing in a tabernacle whose throne rests on cherubim. He is the God of blessings and covenants. They knew who this guy was. They knew who Yahweh Elohim was, okay? It wasn't hidden from them, okay? And he had these names, and they find these names in like Babylonian tablets, and they're like, oh, these guys worshipped these Canaanite pantheon. No, it's the other way around, okay? They knew who the God of gods was, and they worshipped him as that. And the others that were getting off and worshiping these other lesser Elohims, these other gods. Now, on this note, I think I'm getting ready to have to wrap it up here. Again, I didn't say 10% of what I really wanted to say to make my case. But I did just want to start, because I want to get into this other thing that's really important, that stars are souls, which are angels, which is a really important, because I'm just going to end you with this verse, because, see, we have to start looking at this thing differently. If you want to be a virgin with oil, if you want to be prepared for the chaos that's coming, if you want to make it through, if you want to be able to, it says, be those who know their God are strong and will do exploits, I guarantee you're just going to have to get a higher level understanding than basically the milk of the word that most Christians are getting today. So on that note, I want to say God bless, good night, and may Yahushua HaMashiach be your Elohim. In his name I pray.